Welcome to Insights. I'm Eric. Thanks for joining us here again today. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We haven't had a discussion about Bitcoin in several weeks and quite some time since the daily trend flipped down. And that down flip infected the weekly. So we have down on the daily. Here's the daily time frame. And here's the weekly time frame, and it is also down. The only thing that remains up at this point is the primary trend or the monthly trend. Everything looks pretty good in terms of the primary trend. We're going to take a look at that graphically, but we are running out of ticks. The primary trend has been up since 7/1/20, which is in the hit box right here. We have 12 months up and 119% return. So the primary trend has served us pretty well following it, but the daily and then weekly downturn, which creates a misalignment inside the composite trend, which is the three time frames, that is all turned down, and it has runs a potential to challenge the primary uptrend. If you look at the comments that I put in front of this video in terms, or at least the social media post, we can see that there's a lot of people that have interest in the Bitcoin review and how it's playing out in the evolution of the trade. By the number of votes, in which there's not a lot for Bitcoin. I know a lot of the followers don't follow cryptocurrencies, but the logic that flows through every asset in the side of the matrix is exactly the same. So we're not too concerned about how this plays out for Bitcoin. It is the same for every asset. If you hold it, we are concerned about how it plays out. But if you're not, it's a teaching moment for other assets that are inside the matrix as well. But I think the point that I was trying to make is that the response of Bitcoin to infinity shows you how much true believing is in the space, which means there's really a lack of discipline, and there's a lack of discipline everywhere. The Bitcoin is not exclusively the domain of it. There's probably a little bit more inexperience within this space, so be careful. Bitcoin, you're not here to understand what my opinion is about it, but I really don't think Bitcoin is going to survive in its current state, not without some significant changes within government and the way institutions are run. If not, Bitcoin will not survive, and that is my opinion. That doesn't reflect it in the evolution of the trade. I know that Bitcoin can't be shut down. I say Bitcoin won't survive in its current state, and if it does survive in its current state, in a way that's centralized, people who use it are not going to like what's going to happen in terms of the outcome, in terms of taxation reporting and lack of full disclosure on everything that people do. Privacy is a big part of life that probably has to be included within some aspects of constitutions throughout the world and guarantees, but this is something that Bitcoin does not fulfill. So let's talk quickly about the evolution of the trade. For everyone's subscriber, I click on these links and read up about the four phases and understand them. Because what we're going to talk about here with Bitcoin is going to apply for everything, whether you're trading in gold, corn, coffee, or whatever. The same principles apply. We'll keep this one open because there's no trigger element yet, but this will get when this updates into either a primary trend flip down or a reset. We'll talk about it with subscribers. So we said the three time frames are out of alignment. We've got down, down, and up. The down we're going to talk about here quickly has been down for 45 days, and we're going to take a look at the price cycle and the time cycle. This one's almost 3 and this one's almost 2. As always, time is more important than price. I've seen these numbers go quite high. They can go up as two looks is statistically significant. I've seen these numbers go as high as 8, and both up and down. And so this is a warning that the downturn in the daily is getting extended. And if you're getting greedy, and you were crazy enough to short against the primary uptrend, it's time to take some money off the table to some degree. Not, you could go to 8 standard deviations within a cycle because Bitcoin is extremely volatile. But what the concern is coming is we're getting above 2. I've seen this go as high as 3. but in a few more ticks up, this maybe 50 days, this is going to be statistically significant, and that's more important than the price cycle. You start to push on a string, you're asking a trend to go down further, longer than it normally does, and people who come into the trend late, shorting, usually get burnt. So there's going to be some type of reaction, a reset in the daily here coming. The weekly doesn't show any of this stuff in terms of the cycles and cycle extension. Neither one of them are above zero, so this is nothing to worry about, which means that the downtrend can turn down. It can also flip up because the primary trend is up. But we're going to take a look at that primary trend in just a second. We're going to see how there's not that many ticks left in it. What's really important when we enter in consolidation, whether it be a shorter term one in the daily or a longer term one in the weekly, is energy. And these are concepts that are important for subscribers to know. I'd click on these links and follow this help video. Energy represents what's behind the trend. It's what the invisible hand is doing. And for what I've said often about Bitcoin hasn't it doesn't have a large participation rate, which means open interest is low, and it doesn't have the trading history. So Bitcoin's energy is extremely volatile, which means that it tends to be early. It tends to be a little bit confusing in terms of how the computer sees it because it just doesn't have the trading history. We're going to take a look at this more into detail, but this is an important part of the alignment and energy phase, which is phase 3. If Bitcoin's primary trend doesn't flip down and it resets up, this is a phase 3 reset rather than a primary trend flip. You could have a primary trend flip, but we'll have to keep watching on that. So let's look at that a little bit more closely. Here's the daily. This is the grayscale Bitcoin trust that we follow. We're moving down. I see a lot of people talking about how we're going to have a rally in the summer. The odds of a rally are there because the primary trend is up and there's an energy build that favors continuation. But there's a lot of people who cite this stuff based on traditional TA, and I caution against that, even though I'm pretty sure no one's going to listen to that advice because everyone's stubborn and they all got it figured out, and this is just the evolution of the trade. It's some of the best discipline that's out there. It's can be completely learned and followed, but most people won't pick up on it until it's far too late, because that's kind of how it goes. People, especially in cryptocurrency, are highly insulted when you suggest something that they're using is not working. So I'm not even going to throw that out there. Anyone who's following this now knows that the discipline is solid, and we're going to continue to follow that. So this downturn, which has infected the daily and weekly, is growing in intensity. So be cautious. It could get worse. It could flip the trend down. And we're going to take a look at where some of the price targets are, and we're going to take a look at what we are dealing with. I've warned people that I know specifically that Bitcoin is weakening, and I think they're just laughing right now. But pain will teach them. If it does flip down and if you stay long, you're crazy. So crazy is probably not. You're just undisciplined. You're undisciplined in terms of the evolution of the trade, and that's going to usually bites you in the ass. So this is something I'd be careful with. You can watch it if you subscribe to the Matrix. Keep an eye on that primary trend. And here's that primary trend right now graphically. The green boxes show up. Everything is the rallies tend to happen during green boxes. This green box is weakening because these are curling back down to the dotted line, which is the threshold for an uptrend. If we lose this and we go down, we're going to go into an unshaded region, and that's usually when prices tend to accelerate and slide. How far can they slide? Here's the Bitcoin weekly reversals. Inside, anyone who subscribes to the Matrix can pull up the Bitcoin in this pull down menu, or you can find it in the cloud version, and you can see all sorts of reversals levels from the daily and the weekly, and then there's a few on the monthly, but not many because Bitcoin hasn't been around a lot. We focus on the weekly, which is right here. The computer draws out these numbers right here, and these change from day to day. The computer scans them, the supply demand zones. These red lines started to show up within the high. It was an initial warning. Now price is here. We're at the midway point, and now we can see that the computer drew another reversal line here, and price is already below that. So that puts enormous pressure to come down and test this reversal zones, which you can go look them up. I'm not going to talk about them in specific. If you're a subscriber, contact me directly if you can't figure out how to do it, but we could drop all the way down here without a problem. And it's going to spank some backsides pretty hard in the crypto space. So if this thing flips down, we're coming down and testing here. You have to be prepared for it. I know when you say Bitcoin to infinity, that means you're not prepared for it. It also means that if Bitcoin is attacked by regulation and policy and is deemed illegal or various other nature that they can go after it, you're going to lose everything. But that's something that I'm not even going to try and convince people otherwise. There's a lot of belief in it, but I'm trying to introduce some discipline into this space, into Bitcoin in particular. As I've said, the potential for a rally does exist. If we click over here, we can see we're in an up cycle for the primaries. If that holds and the energy build is present, we do have enough energy to realign the composite trend and make another run from the summer. But we need to see an R here. We need to see this highlighted yellow. For that R to happen, you need energy to turn this up and curl it up again. That energy comes in the form of DI and DI2, which are currently 62 and 43, and the computer is highlighting it white because it's statistically significant. Plus, in this case, WA is well below 100, or it's almost zero, which means people are backing out of the contract like crazy, which means nobody's interested, which usually means there's a trend inflection coming. It could be shorter term because this doesn't always necessarily turn. A primary trend is up, but it doesn't. There could be some more backing and filling before we do this again and really organize and break out. But a low participation rate, as you can see here, people lost interest as it turned. People are losing interest. It could turn again, and the energy build is high enough. Now, the energy build has yet to stabilize, but this is bullish. This is concentrated. 43 is a pretty high number for DI2. The higher these numbers go, the more energy is. The more that this precedes a reset, which we'll have to see if it comes, the more bullish outcome that this is going to have. So this is bullish development, but you still have to wait and see if the composite trend realigns. The Publican Pro Index, which is back in here, it's out in the Pro charts that you get pulled up from the cloud. There, if you click this link right here, you're going to pull up this chart, and you can see there's a downward trend in the Pro Index, and that's usually reflective of professional selling. This is the retail buyers, they're buying. That's kind of how the crypto space is. It's a retail driven market. Some of it has to do with the way the Bitcoin trades on a 24-hour basis, 7 days a week kind of thing, whereas the Bitcoin Trust trades 5 days a week. But in general, you need to see this thing moving higher. It doesn't have to be breaking new highs. It just has to be moving up like it does here and here. And from here to here, it ran up and it supported the price action. We've had a pretty consistent downward action in the Pro Index, and that's why Bitcoin remains and continues to be weak. So keep an eye on this, see if this starts to turn. That will support a rally. It will support a rally that has an energy build, and we would need to see that within a reset. So that's something you want to keep an eye on. But for now, the daily trend is getting long in the tooth, to say so to speak, for the daily down impulse, which means we're primed for some type of reaction. If this goes up and this stays up, you're going to get a double up alignment. We do want to pull up the weekly eventually into a triple alignment. So we want to see up, up, and up. But that's going to probably take some time. So we might need more than one reset here. So we want to get this energy build as high as possible, but we don't want to go down too much further. Go back quickly here, the reversal tabs. This is a deteriorating chart, and we could easily come back down and test this. These are the reversals. These are supply and demand zones. There's more down. There's one down here, and there's more that the computer might draw in. But we're getting pulled towards this area, and if we don't have something that stops that soon, you're not going to be able to stop the forward momentum. There is an inertia in play, and the path of least resistance will stay down. If the primary trend flips down, we'll do another review because it's really going to get organized because then you're going to have triple down. But you'll have triple down that you probably won't want to chase because the energy build, if it stays up here, is it's too bullish. But it can be early, so we can go down and test. We can go down and test these levels. The energy build can really spike up here, which then there's enough energy to flip all three time frames back to up. So it is something we're going to have to watch. This is a discussion that's showing deterioration. It's the Bitcoin is showing accumulation by the invisible hand. It's somewhat strong, if you want to call it that, but the three time frames are not aligned, and that the energy, I want to say this is a good sign, but the energy for Bitcoin is not as quite as solid. Participation is low. The market itself, it can be very early in terms of relative to the S&P 500, or we've talked about this in the dollar index. This can be bullish for quite a bit of time, and for a long duration event, and quite high. It can spike up to probably near 100 and still take a while to turn the trends, or turn the composite trend back up. It also can happen as the monthly trend flips down, because the energy in the contract is just so small. So be careful within that. And we'll talk about that as it materializes. Bitcoin might not be done yet from the standpoint of, even if it is commandeered by official sources for reasons that the community has no idea about. It's not because there's not digital money. Digital money exists already. It's quite private, but Bitcoin is not private, and it can be fully traced. The pipeline shutdown that was paid the Bitcoin ransom explained that in full detail for the world, for anyone who was paying attention and listening. They were able to track down that ransom with almost within 24 hours and pull that money back, which in terms of privacy and other things, that's not how you want the world's sovereign currency to be. So be careful assuming that Bitcoin is somehow going to supplant the dollar in terms of its use. The world's not going to like the fact that everything is trackable, and the public is not going to like that unless we all clean up our lives and don't do anything that's anything that people don't want to see, which ultimately cash provides us the elusiveness that people like to have for certain things. I'm not advocating any of that. It's just the real world that we live in. Criminals and other things are not going to be using Bitcoin because it's fully traceable. So Bitcoin will have to be modified, or Bitcoin will have to disappear, or if it doesn't, the public is not going to like it. So keep an eye on it. We're going to play this by the evolution of the trade. We want to follow the three time frames, and the primary trend is up until that changes, which then we'll have to do another review. We'll also could talk about seasonality, but we'll leave this because I don't want this run too long. If you have any questions, contact me directly back at the blog through the email or other means. You can write under the comments of this video. Subscribe to this channel. We could do more conversations. This one's going to be open, so we want to have people watch and learn about the evolution of the trade. I would suggest studying about it. There's a lot of other markets that are in play that are far better than Bitcoin at the moment. They're going to follow the evolution of the trade, which is the same things that we just talked about. If you have any questions about that, let me know too, or write some comments. And if it's a bunch of crap comments about well, Bitcoin's going to infinity, keep those to yourself or put them up there. But I ain't going to respond to that because that just is that type of discussion is a joke. I mean, I really don't know why people insist that investing somehow some blind faith. I've seen this before in gold before it was crushed. I guess it's going to happen, and it's going to crush Bitcoin. It's just another asset, and it's just its turn. So for the rest and everyone else who's following, keep an eye on Bitcoin and keep watching, and we'll talk to you guys real soon.